In NASCAR, the difference between a legendary move and a devastating penalty can come down to a few inches of asphalt. On the final lap of the Quaker State 400, Bubba Wallace dove to the inside of Carson Hocevar, went 3 wide with the leaders, and crossed the line second. But those few inches below the double yellow line gave NASCAR all the reason it needed to take it all away. Within minutes of the checkered flag, the scoreboard changed. Second place became 29th place. There was no crash. There was no mechanical failure. There was only a rulebook decision that turned a career-boosting result into one of the most debated calls of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. And at the center of it all sits one question that refuses to go away. Did Bubba Wallace actually gain a position, or did NASCAR punish a driver for trying to save his race car? Stick around, because the data argument here is wild. To understand how this moment happened, you have to understand the chaos that surrounded it. The Quaker State 400 at EchoPark Speedway in Hampton, Georgia, was supposed to be a normal Sunday night race. Instead, it became a marathon. Rain and lightning arrived at the Atlanta area facility around lap 108, and the race was paused for a delay that stretched beyond 3 hours. The event did not return to green flag conditions until 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, and the checkered flag did not wave until almost 2 a.m. On Monday morning, fans at the track and fans at home were pushed to their limits, and so were the drivers strapped inside their cars. Through all of that chaos, one man stood above everyone else. Ryan Blaney, driving the number 12 team Penske Ford, led a staggering 171 of 263 laps. He started from the pole position, won Stage 1 by leading all 60 laps, and won Stage 2 as well, completing a clean sweep of the stages. His laps led total on the 1.5-mile Atlanta high banks is the most for a race winner at a drafting track since Richard Petty led 184 of 200 laps in his 1964 Daytona 500 victory. That is the level of dominance we are talking about here. Blaney's win was his second of the season and his first since Phoenix in March. And it also marked a milestone 750th victory for Ford Motor Company. But Bubba Wallace was no passenger in this race. The driver of the number 2323XI Racing Toyota drove through the field early, finished 10th in Stage 1, ran inside the top 5 for much of the second half of the night, and even wrestled the lead away from Blaney's dominant Ford, pacing the field for 11 laps. He was fast, he was aggressive, and he was in the fight. However, trouble found him before the finish ever did. Coming to the green and white checkered flag at the end of Stage 2, Wallace threw an aggressive block on his fellow Toyota driver Ty Gibbs and spun off the front bumper of the number 54 car exiting Turn 4. The spin cost him valuable stage points and forced him to mount a comeback in the final stage. Remember that name, Ty Gibbs, because he is about to appear in this story again at the worst possible moment. Now we arrive at the final lap, and this is where everything changed. When the white flag waved in overtime, Carson Hocevar was leading in the number 77 Spire Motorsports, Chevrolet. Ryan Blaney was second. Bubba Wallace was third. Down the backstretch, Blaney was pushed toward the outside, and Wallace spotted an opening on the inside of Hocevar. He committed to the move and drove the number 23 Toyota to the bottom of the racetrack. But in doing so, his car dipped below the double yellow line, the boundary that separates the apron from the racing surface at Atlanta. Wallace gathered the car back up, returned above the line, and suddenly the field was 3 wide for the lead, heading into turns 3 and 4. Through the final corners, Christopher Bell in the number 20 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota delivered a massive push to Blaney's rear bumper, and that shove carried Blaney across the finish line first by just 0.068 seconds. Wallace crossed the line second. He believed he had salvaged a runner-up finish on a brutal night. That happiness lasted for about 30 seconds. NASCAR immediately reviewed the tape, ruled that Wallace advanced his position by going below the double yellow line, and dropped him to 29th place, the final car on the lead lap. Christopher Bell was promoted to second, and Carson Hocevar was scored third. So what exactly is this rule that erased Bubba Wallace's finish? The double yellow line rule exists at NASCAR's drafting tracks, including Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta. The rulebook language in question, Section 8.3.2, reads as follows. If NASCAR determines that a vehicle goes beneath the double-painted lines to improve its position, it will be black flagged. If NASCAR determines that a vehicle forces another vehicle beneath the double-painted lines in an effort to advance its own position, the vehicle may be black flagged. The rule exists for one reason above all others, and that reason is safety. It stops drivers from using the flat apron as a passing lane while running in packs at nearly 200 miles per hour, where one wrong move can trigger a catastrophic crash. And here is the key point for this entire debate. The rule is enforced based on outcome, not intent. NASCAR officials determined that Wallace's move below the line allowed him to improve from third position to second position, and that determination alone triggered the penalty. Bubba Wallace, however, tells a completely different story, and he did not hold back after climbing from his car. It says advancing your position, which I did not do, Wallace said. I stayed third, and I was all over the brakes to make sure I did not advance. As soon as I turned, I was like, I'm going to wreck, and got on the brakes, kept it under me, and still ended up side by side. That move should have propelled me to the lead, and it didn't because I knew it was wrong because my car did not like that move. He continued, we'll see what we can do, but I did not advance my position. I stayed third from the entry of turn 3 all until 50 yards away. His explanation for why he went below the line in the first place is central to his defense. In his television interview, Wallace explained, I turned down and got super loose, so just to keep it straight, I ended up there. It's unfortunate. You can go back and look at the SMT. I was all over the brakes trying to just get the spot back. In other words, Wallace claims this was not a calculated shortcut. He says the car got loose. He dipped low to keep it straight, and he immediately lifted and braked in an attempt to surrender any advantage. And then comes the Ty Gibbs wrinkle. Wallace insists that the position change from third to second did not come from his yellow line move at all. It came from a shove. It says don't go below the yellow line to gain a position, which I didn't. I was still third, and I got a shove from the 54, Ty Gibbs, to go to second. So technically, no positions were gained doing that. Again, SMT data shows me try to get it back. But the 54 just shoves us by here, Wallace said. He believes the telemetry data proves he was actively giving the spot back, and that Ty Gibbs's push nullified that attempt, through no fault of his own. Wallace did not simply accept the ruling and go home. Along with crew chief Charles Denike and 2-3 ex-iRacing director of competition Dave Rogers, he reviewed video of the finish in the garage and then walked straight into the NASCAR hauler to plead his case. The meeting lasted 31 minutes. The penalty stood. When Wallace finally emerged, he offered 5 resigned words. A penalty's a penalty. NASCAR's side of this argument is short, firm, and final. Cup Series Managing Director Brad Moran said outside the hauler that the penalty is not reviewable, that Wallace advanced his position below the line, and that the infraction is all spelled out in the rulebook. There is no mechanism to appeal an in-race judgment call of this nature. The case, as far as NASCAR is concerned, is closed. And the consistency argument carries real weight here. This rule has been applied the same way all season, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. reportedly called the penalty in real time the moment Wallace made the move. There is, however, a genuine tension in the counterargument. It is not Ty Gibbs's job to intentionally lift and compromise his own race just so Wallace can give a position back. But at the same time, is it really Bubba Wallace's fault that another driver shoved him forward while he was on the brakes? Now let us talk about what this penalty actually cost, because the numbers are brutal. The drop from 2nd to 29th represented a 27-point swing. Wallace entered the race 77 points above the playoff cut line. Without the penalty, he would have left Atlanta 82 points above it. Instead, he leaves with a cushion of just 55 points, sitting 13th in the standings with 6 regular season races remaining: North Wilkesboro, Indianapolis, Iowa, Richmond, New Hampshire, and Daytona. Wallace himself understands exactly what this means for the drivers chasing him. "That's massive for us," Wallace said. "Everybody behind us in points is like, oh, 23. They see that and they're licking their chops. The position that we're in, we're not safe. We need to figure out what we need to do moving forward because, again, I did not advance my position." And there is an awkward organizational layer sitting on top of all of this. The championship points leader is Denny Hamlin, who is also Wallace's co-owner at 23XI Racing. One side of the building is running away with the regular season, while the other side is defending a penalty on national television. Add in Wallace's parting shot about his fellow Toyota driver. "That's Toyota teammates. We don't race very well together." And you have real friction inside the Toyota camp heading into the stretch run. So where does the debate land? The case for the penalty is simple. Rules must be applied consistently, or they mean nothing. The video shows Wallace running low and emerging alongside the leaders, and every driver knows exactly where that boundary sits before the final lap begins. The case against it is just as compelling. A split-second reaction in 3-wide traffic at 2 in the morning after a 3-hour delay is not the same as a calculated pass in clean air. Wallace braked to surrender the spot, and the final position change arguably came from Ty Gibbs' push rather than the move itself. That leads to the deeper question hanging over this entire controversy. Should NASCAR's yellow line enforcement account for intent and telemetry data, or would adding that nuance destroy the rule's credibility entirely? So here is your verdict to deliver. Was this a hero move gone wrong by inches, or a calculated gamble that got caught? Drop your take in the comments, because next week, the Cup Series heads to North Wilkesboro for the track's first points race in 30 years, and this playoff bubble battle is only getting hotter.